So now we are going to discuss about the concentration of the urine. Okay. So human produces concentrated urine under a condition like low water intake. Okay. So whenever you are suffering from either low water intake or dehydration, that is loss of water because of excessive sweating, then urine become highly concentrated. Okay. Now it become 4 times concentrated than your blood. So your blood has a concentration of the salt approximately 300 milliosmol per liter. Okay. But the urine can become 1200 milliosmol per liter under such condition like low water intake and loss of water because of excessive sweating. Okay. Now there is a mechanism called as counter current mechanism, which is going to help in making the concentrated urine. Okay. Now you can see this is called as counter current mechanism is operated in case of the human kidney, and that counter current mechanism is operated with the help of Henle's loop as well as the vasa recta. Okay. So all of you know that vasa recta is a part of peritubular capillaries which is parallel to Henle's loop. Okay. So these two part, that is Henle's loop as well as a part called as vasa recta, which is involved in counter current mechanism. Counter current, that means the fluid is going to flow exactly in opposite direction. Therefore it is called as counter current mechanism. Okay, therefore it is known as counter current mechanism. So in case of the limbs of the Henle's loop, okay, the limbs of the Henle's loop in case of the juxta medullary nephron and vasa recta, it is going to show the counter current mechanism as follows, that we are going to discuss now. Okay, so the mechanism is going to involve the passage of the fluid. Okay, the mechanism is going to involve the passage of the fluid from ascending to descending limb of the Henle's loop. So you can see over here, this is a Henle's loop. So this is a passage of the fluid from which limb? From the limb which is called as descending limb. This is a descending limb. All right. Then it will go to the ascending limb. Okay, that is the first part. Second part that you can see over here, that is flow of tubular fluid in opposite direction through both the limb. Hence the name is called as counter current mechanism. Okay. So this mechanism is going to involve passage of the fluid from descending to ascending limb of the Henle's loop and flow of the tubular fluid in opposite direction. So you can see over here, this is these two the fluid, that is ascending as well as descending limb, these are going to flow in opposite direction. Even in case of the vasa recta, vasa recta also has a descending limb and ascending limb. Even also you can see this, the blood is going to flowing in opposite direction. So that makes the counter current, counter is opposite, current is flow, so counter current mechanism. Okay. So in case of the hen, that is vasa recta, the blood is going to flow from the ascending to the descending part. Okay, it is going to flow from the ascending, you can see this is the ascending part, ascending to the descending part. Are you getting? That is in opposite way. Okay. Now look at the first part, the wall of the descending limb. Now you can see this is the descending limb, this is the descending limb of Henle's loop. Okay, this is thin and permeable to water. Can you remember this? Okay, so inside there is a fluid that is called as a tubular fluid. Okay, inside there is a fluid called as tubular fluid. I am writing over here, this is called as a tubular fluid. Okay, so tubular fluid is there inside the descending limb of Henle's loop. So wall of the descending limb is thin and permeable to water. So water is going to diffusing out. Can you make out? Water is going to diffusing. Then this water is going to diffuses out from the tubular fluid to the tissue fluid. This is called as tissue fluid. Are you getting? Yes or no? So wall of the descending limb, it is thin and permeable to water. So the fluid is going to move from the tissue fluid. Okay, from the tubular fluid to the tissue fluid. Are you getting this? So because of that, as the urine is going down, it become more concentrated. Now you can see here it is 300 milliosmol. As it goes down, it becomes 600 milliosmol. Then it becomes 900 milliosmol because of loss of water. Okay, so the tubular fluid become more concentrated as it goes down. Okay, so you can see this tubular fluid is 900 milliosmol, and at the bend it almost become 1200 milliosmol. Okay, so make more water uh, to move out of the descending limb into the tissue fluid by a process called as osmosis. Okay, so osmolarity of the tubular fluid is increasing gradually because of the water loss. Okay, that is in case of descending limb. Coming to the ascending limb, now you can see this is the ascending limb. Okay, now the you can see this become 900. What happens? Ascending limb. Okay, this is the ascending limb which is thick walled as well as it is impermeable to water. That means water cannot move out. Okay, here the water in this case, the water cannot move out because it is impermeable to water. So cells of the ascending limb, okay, this is the cells of the ascending limb, they are going to reabsorb the sodium and chlorine from tubular fluid because this is permeable. Okay, this is become what? Permeable to salt. Okay, it become permeable to salt. So cells of ascending limb, they are going to reabsorb, okay, sodium and chlorine from the tubular fluid. Yes or no? So this is called as a tubular fluid. So this is tubular fluid. Okay, so these cells are going to absorb sodium and chlorine from the tubular fluid, and then it is transported to the tissue fluid. This is called as tissue fluid. Yes or no? Okay, so it is going to transport it to the tissue fluid. So what happens? Salt concentration will go on decreasing. Now you can see initially it is 900, now it becomes 600. Okay, now it becomes 1000, that is 100 milliosmol. Okay, so as the fluid is going to move up in case of ascending limb, again the concentration will go on decreasing. Are you getting this? Yes. So you can see over here what is written. Wall of the descending limb is thin and permeable to water. So water is going to diffusing out. Okay, see, you can see this water is diffusing or it is going out by a process osmosis. So tubular fluid, okay, around the descending limb become concentrated. Now you can see the concentration become 600, then become 900. So makes more water to move out of the descending limb into the tissue fluid. So tubular fluid, from the tubular fluid, it water is going to the tissue fluid, and gradually the osmolarity of the tubular fluid increasing, okay, because of the water loss. Similarly, in case of the ascending limb, it is thick and impermeable to water. Cells of ascending limb is going to reabsorb sodium and chlorine salt or chlorine ion from the tubular fluid, and then they are going to release where? Into the tissue fluid. Okay, so because of that, osmolarity progressively decreases because of the loss of salt as it flows up through the ascending limb. Okay, so this is how the concentration is maintained, okay, in case of a juxtamedullary nephron, because juxtamedullary nephron has a longer loop of Henle. Okay, it has got a longer loop of Henle. Similarly, pay attention, the next part. You can see over here there is an ADH. ADH stand for antidiuretic hormone. Okay, now that antidiuretic hormone, it is going to make the cell in the wall of the collecting duct. This is a collecting duct. Okay, so this collecting duct, it is under the influence of hormone called as ADH. ADH stand for anti-diuretic hormone. Full form of the ADH is antidiuretic hormone. So water is going to move from tubular fluid into the tissue fluid. So this is a tubular fluid. Yes, this is a tubular fluid. Okay. So water is going to move from tubular fluid to the tissue fluid. Okay, because of the influence of hormone called as ADH. ADH stand for antidiuretic hormone. Okay, so water is going to move from the tubular fluid into the tissue fluid, and that is going to make the urine more concentrated. Now you can see there will be loss of water. Okay, now as the urine goes to the deepest part of the medulla, this is medulla. Can you see this? Inner medulla. Okay, so concentrated urine flows to the collecting duct. Now urea is going to diffuse from the urine into the tissue fluid, from the tissue fluid into the tubular fluid, flowing through the ascending limb. Now you can see over here the urea has moved out. All right. Now this urea is going to diffuse from the tissue fluid into the tubular fluid. Into the tissue fluid. Urea is going to diffuse from the tubular fluid into the tissue fluid, and again from the tissue fluid it is going to enter into the ascending limb of Henle's loop. Are you getting this? Again I am going to uh, say again, I am going to say the same thing. Urea in the deeper part of the medulla, it is going to diffuse out from the tubular fluid into the tissue fluid. From the tissue fluid, again it is going to entering into the ascending limb, and then ascending limb it is going to carry that urea to the upper part of the ascending limb, and this ascending limb is impermeable to urea, so urea cannot come out. Okay, so this is known as a recycling of the urea. Okay, pay attention. So as the concentrated urine flows through the collecting duct, urea is going to diffuse out from the urine into the tissue fluid. Okay, and from the tissue fluid into the tubular fluid. So you can see the flow pathway. This is the tubular fluid, again into the tissue fluid, and from the tissue fluid it is again going to enter into the tubular fluid. Are you getting this? Okay, so this is how that urea is going to travel. Okay, from urine to the tissue fluid to the tubular fluid. Okay, then urea cannot pass out of the tubular fluid while flowing through the ascending limb, because DCT and the cortical portion of the nephron, DCT and cortical portion of the nephron is impermeable to it. So while flowing through the collecting duct, water reabsorption is operated under the influence of ADH, because here the salt concentration is going to increase. So water reabsorption will take place, and urea concentration will increases in the tubular fluid, and the same urea will diffuse out into the tissue fluid. That is called as what? Urea recycling. Okay, look at this. ADH make the cell wall, a cell in the wall of the collecting duct permeable to water. Okay, the water is going to move out from the tubular fluid into the tissue fluid. You can make out there is a loss of water over here. Okay, this portion. Okay, now cell in the wall of deep medullary part. This is a deep medullary part. All right. So you can see this is a permeable to urea. All right. So urea is going to now concentrate urine flows through the collecting duct. Urea diffuse out from the urine. Okay, it is going to come out from the urine from here. Then it is going to enter into the tissue fluid, and again from the tissue fluid it is going to enter into the tubular fluid. Okay, flowing through the ascending limb. Now urea has entered into this part. Now urea cannot pass out to the tubular fluid because flowing through the ascending limb, because DCT as well as cortical portion of the nephron is impermeable for the urea. While flowing through the collecting duct, again here water reabsorption is operated under the influence of ADH, and urea concentration in the tubular fluid. Okay, and same the urea concentration is going to increase in the tubular fluid, and the some urea, okay, not same, some urea is going to diffuse again, and this is known as urea recycling for more water reabsorption. Okay, this is for recycling of the urea for more reabsorption of water. Understood? So as we know that osmotic gradient is very essential in the region of renal medulla. Okay, so this can be maintained with the help of counter current exchange system. The vasa recta also has a descending limb and ascending limb. So this vasa recta has a descending limb. So this is a descending limb, right? So this portion is called as ascending limb. Okay. Now, if you see that the blood that is going to enter into the descending limb of the vasa recta has a normal osmolarity that is approximately 300 milliosmol. You can make out in the diagram. All right. So as it is going to flow down in the region of the renal medulla where the tissue fluid become increasingly concentrated. Now you can see this is a tissue fluid. Okay, so here there is more concentration of the salt in the tissue fluid. There is more concentration of the salt because salt is going to diffuse from the Henle's loop. Then that salt is going to enter into the tissue fluid. Then salt from the tissue fluid is going to enter into the vasa recta. So blood become more concentrated. Even the water is going to diffuse from the blood into the tissue fluid. So here the concentration is going to increase. But as the blood is going up, what happens over here? The water is going to move inside and salt is going to move outside. Okay, so salt concentration is going to decrease. Okay, and water concentration is going to increase. So again milliosmolarity that is also going to, or osmolarity is also going to decrease. So you can see what is written: osmotic gradient is maintained by vasa recta by counter current exchange system. Vasa recta has descending limb. You can see over here, this is a descending limb. This is the ascending limb. So blood enter into the descending limb of vasa recta. VR stand for vasa recta. It has a 300 milliosmol. You can make out in the diagram. Okay. So as it flows down in the region of the renal medulla, where the tissue fluid is increasingly concentration. Okay. Now here the tissue fluid is more concentrated in the deeper part. Okay, now what happens over here? The salt that is like sodium, chlorine, and urea, they are going to diffuses from the tissue fluid. Okay, they are going to diffuses from the tissue fluid into the blood. So this is a blood. So this is how that salt is going to move. All right, yes or no? Hmm. Due to this, blood become more concentrated, which now flows through the ascending limb of the vasa recta. So this part, you can see this is ascending limb. Okay, this part is going up. It is passing through the region of the medulla where the tissue fluid. Now you can see the tissue fluid has less concentrated. So what happens? The salt is going to come out. So sodium, chlorine, and urea is diffused out from the blood to the tissue fluid, and water is going to enter from the tissue fluid into the blood. And this is how the reabsorption of water to maximum capacity loop of Henleys are longer in case of the desert animal like camel. Okay, so due to this, camel excrete concentrated urine. Okay, always remember. So as to reabsorb maximum water, okay, the Henley's loop is longer in case of desert animal, and that's why the camel can excrete highly concentrated urine. So this is all about the concentration of urine. Okay, this is all about the concentration of urine. Now coming to the composition of urine, finally we get a urine. So you can see that urine has yellow color because of the urochrome. Okay, it has the pigment which is formed by the breakdown of the hemoglobin. Can you remember that hemoglobin, once the RBC become dead or worn out, they are going to enter into the liver where they are broken down into the pigment called as bilirubin, biliverdin, and urochrome. Urochrome is excreted in the urine, so that's why it gives the yellow color, which is a pale yellow color. So you can see this, we have the uric acid, bicarbonate ion, creatinine, potassium, sodium, chlorine. Urea we have, that is 2.5%. That is 2.5 gram per 2.5 gram per 100 ml. So normally human being excrete on an average 25 to 30 gram of urea per day. So you can see over here, this is a composition of urine. The volume we excrete approximately 2.5 to 1.5 liter of urine per day. That is 1200 to 1500 ml. per day. The color is pale yellow because of urochrome and bile derivatives urobilin and urethrin. Specific gravity, it is 1.01, 1.03 because it has salt. It is slightly acidic. pH can be in the range of 5 to 7. The odor is ammoniac. What is the constituent? Urea, 2.5%. Uric acid, ammonia, creatinine, all these are organic constituent. Inorganic is 95% water and salt of chlorine, sulfate, phosphate of sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. Sodium chloride is the most abundant of this salt. Okay, so this is all about the composition of urine.